we're starting with a base layer of burnt sienna here. And if you can see, I've just used my brush to outline the entire form of the hair and then fill it in. And I make sure that when I am filling in, I paint long, smooth strokes all the way around the shape I want the hair to go in. So I don't do like a quick, short stroke all over. I don't do really little thin lines. I just start with long, smooth strokes. And this is long, wavy hair, so it's going to make a big difference with it looking realistic and like long, wavy hair. And the mix is just the burnt sienna and extender. And I go back and forth in the burnt sienna layer in the hair so that I have darker bits and lighter bits all in the same wet layer. You can see I use all of the 12-inch filbert. So some strokes are flat to shade better like that, and some of the strokes I use the edge almost like a chisel tip and just kind of adjust my lines. But if you see, I take the whole line, I don't stop short. And you can put your line into another line if you don't want to take it all the way down the length of the hair, because this is really long hair. It's really hard to see up at the top. It's such long hair, I tried to get it in the whole shot here, but you can see up there exactly what I did. It's very watery, still thin glaze, and this is how I'm going to start all of the hair. It doesn't matter what color my hair is, if it's black, if it's blonde, if it's red. Obviously the easiest color for you to go for from the burnt sienna layer is going to be a red or a brown, because burnt sienna is red-brown. But it just adds richness to your underlayers to do the burnt sienna, even if you're doing black or white hair. If you're doing an unnatural color hair, if you're doing green or blue or something like that, then don't do the burnt sienna. Make sure you put burnt sienna around the face, just as a shadow. And I got some on the face, so I'm going to clean that off, no matter what hair color you're doing, so that it looks natural and like it's resting on the head as a part of her, not like a cutout she's wearing. I gave the burnt sienna layer time to dry, and so now we can start painting on top of it again with another layer of glaze. And the way hair goes, it's almost like doing the layers of the face. Everything I do is done in those types of layers. You do a burnt sienna underpainting, the first layer, and then we're going to define some of the hair, or where I want some of the hair to be anyway, with some burnt umber. And you hear me open it up off camera. And this is going to be a really quick layer. I'm just going to mix it up and brush it on. I drew all the lines that I wanted, where I wanted my stuff to go, so now I'm going to just brush them in very loosely with this burnt umber. There's going to be a shadow here by her neck. The hair that falls in front of the neck is there, so we're going to paint in that shadow. And then I just start painting in all the curves. I try to keep the lines long and smooth, like I was saying. Just make sure I don't have any choppy, short lines, unless I'm painting choppy, short hair. And this is a rather dry mix. There's a ton of back and forth in the hair. And you just go back and forth with your shadow. You go back and forth with your highlight. And you just go until you like it. There is a fly in here. I'm just putting all the brown layers in. And I go all the way down the hair. Just suggesting the same areas that I drew in my pencil. And I'm holding the camera, sorry for the shakiness, just so you guys can see. I watered it down some just to get down here really fast. Alrighty. Now from here you can go darker or lighter with your hair, but you really need to decide, you know, what color you're gonna do before you go any further. And I assume, right, you probably already have, right? You probably already have a really good idea of what hair color you would like. Just let your burnt umber dry and we'll start. I like to draw really long wavy hair, and I like to paint kind of like a mermaid white blonde hair. I think I'm going to do that here too. I'm going to start with blonde, and I'm going to see how I like it. I have my yellow ochre. You're going to have to use whatever color you'd like for your hair. This might be whatever color you have too, I'm not sure. I'm mixing my yellow with my extender right now off camera, so that it'll smooth on very easily. You want this to be a pretty thin layer. And if you decide after you put on like a yellow or a blonde color that you'd like to go darker, you can keep building up and going darker. But if you start off with black, you're going to have a hard time going to a lighter color unless you gesso over your hair. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to paint over everything I did, just like in the face, because we were just establishing value and shadow and form. We weren't trying to render out the hair just yet. This is almost a pure yellow ochre too, so it's going to be very bright yellow. Just a little extender in there. Now if I don't like how it's laying on, I'm going to water it down some, but it looks like it's good right now. You see it just everywhere. Just brush, brush, brush. And this is like a fill layer. You're just filling in the entire area, but you still have to brush along the way that you want your hair to lie. You don't just brush all crazy. You need to always follow the forms of the hair or whatever you've previously put on there. And part of the reason we do the underpainting is because it does a lot of the shading for us. We're still going to go back in and shade, but it just establishes that shade base for us. I'm not sure if you can see it that well on camera. I'll pick up the camera too. Watch me work. Follow along. Or take notes or whatever you need to do, and then I'll pick it up and I'll show you. Right now she's got like a strawberry blonde thing going on that's pretty cool too. Pulling more color through the top. And this isn't where you're going to have trouble either. Filling in the hair, not where you're going to have any problems. You are going to have questions when it comes to highlighting, making your hair look more natural, how to shade, where to place it. So we're going to cover that too. But I got to get all this base color in there. And if you follow it like that, you'll have the brush strokes that like painting like this will give you. You're gonna see horizontal brush strokes. You don't want to see that in your hair. It's not gonna make your hair look any more realistic. And even though this is a whimsical hair, you want it to look like it's all a part of the girl, not all a part of the painting of the girl, if that makes any sense at all. lightly brush into the shadow. I'm not going to fill in the shadow with a whole bunch of paint. And I'm trying to get an even layer on this yellow glaze. I'm not trying to have it too thin in places or too thick in other places, except for that shadow where it was thinner. And I'm going to come down here and do the bottom curl. I'll show you. You're still getting a line, if you can see that, of brown showing through because this is a glaze, it's transparent. And I decide how light I want it to be or how dark I want it to be and where I would like my highlights and where I would like my deepest shadow. The highlights are going to be in the roundest part of the face, or part of the hair, pardon me, where the light is hitting it. And I'm just going to block those in. I'm not going to draw or paint really long lines. I'm just mixing my paint color. I'm going to do it with a little bit of Titan Buff or your porcelain and the yellow to make a tint of it. I'm not going to use bright white just yet. So for me, the roundest part of the hair is where the bumps are up here. I'm going to paint on exactly how the hair lies. I'm going to go crazy with this. You could give her a million highlights of where the light hits. But hair really isn't that shiny. You know, it's not made out of plastic, so you don't need to give too much. And I'm going to show you this too, but I brushed them on and then I'm blending them out just a little bit so they look like they're sitting on hair, not just sitting on the painting. And this is one of the only times that brush strokes are going to be something you want to kind of show because it helps the highlight for you. And down at the bottom, I'm not going to do too much in the way of highlight. I'm just going to do it at the bumps. You can see that just in the bumps. I'm going to pick it up and show it to you now. You can see all those highlights that I just did. I'm going to let these dry for just a little bit so that when I put the next layer of glaze on, I'm not moving these around. I like exactly where these are. I don't need them to blend into anything. So I'll see you in like 10 minutes. Okay, everything has dried. It's dry to the touch even. I can touch it and not move the color around. Let me move the camera around a bit though, so you can see. And then we are going to get started painting. And I think I'm going to use a very, very wet brush for this. Let's check it out. Sorry guys, I don't usually move the camera this much. And I'm trying to find the best place to start. I don't always start at the top, I don't always start at the bottom. And here she is. Everything's dry. We're going to start painting in the hair now. So get up close. Everything else is just blocking in forms. Now we're going to start defining forms. I'm going to find shapes and paint in the middle of the hair. You can see that. These are actually going to be the shapes that were in between all my lines. This is with a light mix of Titan Buff and yellow. And I want the extender to keep this really wet because I'm going to blend this out. I'm going to blend in the edges very, very gently. This is my round brush. It's really small. And I just found the shapes. I'm going to start blending the colors. And that's how I work with everything. If you've read any of the tutorials at all, I talk about finding shapes you know. So you're not just like looking at a giant mass of hair and trying to figure it out. Just start finding things that you know. I find these shapes in the middle. And I'm going to start painting them in. And I think that color might actually be a little too light for what I wanted to do. So I'm going to add some yellow over top of it, just right on top. And since I have so much extender on there, it's actually just blending all together, if you can see that. I'm going to bring my camera in close so you can see what I'm talking about. And I only do the lighter bits towards the top, where the most of the light would be hitting. And just define the chunks in here. Come right over here. Get really in close and show you that. Painting in between the brown lines that I have. And I'm just blending. And this is where the back and forth sort of starts too. We're not going to work on the whole hair all at once. I'm going to kind of work in stages of the hair. So I'm working the top, the middle, and the bottom because the hair is so long. I'm going to go ahead and add some of the lighter color now. A lighter white. And I make sure to work this color into both sides of the top of the hair, into the crown and into the bangs area, so that one side isn't differently colored than the other side. And I am going to mix all of my colors for the hair together. So I'm going to use my burnt umber, and I'm going to mix it with my yellow ochre to shade again. And I'm going to mix the Titan buff, or whatever your light color is, if you have the French vanilla or whatever. And then I'm going to go back and forth in the middle. If you can see that. I know it looks chunky now, but we're going to keep working and working on it until that, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see on camera. Sorry, I had to look at the laptop. This line here isn't a line, and this shape here isn't a shape. They all just look like hair, but it's a lot of back and forth to make it look real. And it's a lot of paint strokes versus just drawing or painting lines. And if your paint ever gets too wet on the canvas, then you just let it dry and come back. It sounds like a lot, it's really not. You just keep mixing the colors and blending them together. So it's still just your Titan buff, your yellow, and your two burnt sienna and burnt umber. Just go back and forth until you have the sections of the hair the way you'd like them, where there's a shadow, and then we're going to go back into the hair just a little bit, and I'm going to show that to you pretty darn up close. I'm going to do this side first so you can see it. This is where I start adding hair strokes. Just light ones. See how thick that line is too? You just want light ones that are kind of thick. You don't want to draw small little lines just yet. And this is the burnt sienna, and I am glazing this on top of that really wet yellowy white mixture because I want them to blend slightly, but I don't want the color to become one color. So I'm not going to work it into each other. I'm just going to kind of stroke the colors in together. Can you see that? I think so. Yeah, it looks good on camera. I'm actually holding the webcam for this one so that I can get in really, really close instead of painting really far away with the webcam on the tripod. So I'm sorry if it's shaky. I don't have the... I just forgot what I was saying while I was blending my colors. Sorry guys, that happens. I was going to say I don't have the steadiest of hands while I was blending colors. Isn't that hilarious? I forgot what I was talking about. This is a light white, and we're going to keep going back. I'm going to try to do just a few brush strokes of the lighter color on top of the darker color that I just did. That's going to give it a lot of contrast. I was trying to think of a more basic way to teach this to you guys. But then I didn't really think you guys would want to learn like a really super basic way to do hair. You can stop whenever you want too. If you don't want to do all the back and forth in the hair, you can stop at any layer and call it a day. I could spend almost all my time of my painting just doing the hair too, especially when it's long. This is burnt sienna again. And again, it's just the back and forth that I said I was going to do a lot of. Just painting paint stroke after paint stroke after paint stroke into other colors. And so if you think about the hair in just 3 layers now, as we're painting, like the painting process, we did a base. This would be the middle, and then we're going to do a top layer as well. Even though there's a lot of little layers in between, the base was the burnt sienna, burnt umber, and then the yellow ochre. And then the middle steps are all the back and forth with the different paint mixes, making the lines and what have you. And then we're going to let it dry one more time. And we are going to do all the detail work. We're going to, that's when we start pulling out individual lines of hair. And if it looks funny to you right now, don't worry about it. It will look more like hair as soon as we do that step. And this adds a lot of dimension to your hair, these steps here. I'm pulling this down in the middle now because I did the top and I like it. And I'm doing the burnt umber. And if you can remember the steps you did, do them again. It's burnt umber. And this is the hair's gonna go a little bit more into shadow because it's curving in, if you see there. So I'm putting more burnt umber in there. In here too, it's gonna be kind of shadowy. And in here. And I'm using a teeny tiny brush for this. So I'm gonna get a little bit larger of a brush. I grab the flat brush instead of a filbert. Pretend this is a filbert. If you can see too, I don't know if you can see those lines I just did. This is why I use a filbert. Look at that. Those are like squares. I'm not trying to paint a square. I was trying to blend my colors together. Let's get that filbert back in there. Blend those colors. Next. And now I'm going to take a step back and look at it. Middle to end. Excuse my hand in the shot. I'm going to add some more light colors down in this part, in the middle part that we were painting. And this is going to be yellow ochre, almost pure. It's got a teeny bit of the Titan buff on it. And I'm going to follow lines. If you can see that, that's all we're always doing. It's 1,000 lines on top of each other in the same direction with varying colors and opacities of paint, basically. Oops, pull the colors down. I'm doing a long stroke. You guys can't see from the top, but I'll show you. Since you don't want everything to look like, two parts, I'm still doing the same color, and I'm pulling it around and down. You see that giant yellow? And then just smooth it. See? My filbert is really good for blending colors. That's why I like it so much. Then you just blend. You see I'm just wiggling along the edge, just like I showed you with the nose in the light demo. So we're just going to wiggle along the edge to blend that color in. And I'm going to do it on the other side. And then I'm going to wiggle it in, because I don't want it to be too harsh of a line. You see that? I'll pull back some so you can always see down at the bottom is the bottom first layers of yellow and the burnt sienna and the burnt umber, not in the order obviously. And then as we go up, you see the middle. You see how the forms start to really thicken out and look like they're coming out more 3D. That's what we're going for. And now that I'm looking through the camera, I kind of see like over here needs a little more shadow. And that's how the hair is going to go for you too. This is going to be kind of a more loose tutorial, and it's either going to drive you absolutely bonkers doing the hair, or you're going to be like, oh, finally, I don't have to do something set in stone. There are 8 rules to painting hair. I can just kind of go back and forth and be relaxed about it, depending on your learning styles. So if you love it, thank you. If you don't love it, I'm sorry. Just relax and enjoy the process as much as you can without worrying about ruining it. So you're going to paint like 100 bad paintings. I haven't even gotten there yet. So you think about how many paintings you have to make 100 bad paintings. Even if you feel like you did 100 bad paintings in a freaking row, you've already made 100 paintings, so you are bound to have gotten better after 100 paintings. Unless you're a robot. No offense to any robots out there. I'm just painting the long line of the yellow and white that I did at the top down at the bottom. I'm going to do it on either side. And then I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to show you it all one more time. This part's getting a little messy. I'm going to clean it up with my brush. You see my fingers in there. I'm actually steadying the paper and the camera while I'm painting. Alright. So I got the brush strokes in both sides. All the way up. And it looks like to me right here, because of the highlight, looks like it's coming forward more. Does it look like to you? Can you see that? And then it's starting to recede some into the darker color. And that's just going to happen. Blending moments like that are going to happen. You can plan them out by putting the lighter color on top and fading it into a darker color. And that's what we're doing on the sides too. Lighter color in the middle, darker color on each side, making it look more round. And I think I'll show you that one more time down here on this side where it's not actually done yet. Okay, so we're gonna make this bit of hair look like it is coming forward, and this bit of hair look like it's receding using lighter colors. This is just Titan Buff and Yellow Ochre and some extender. We're going to paint it in the middle. And then I'm going to grab some of the burnt sienna off of my palette and paint it in the background. And then I'm going to blend the two together lightly right in the middle there. And then pull it back. So now it looks like this part is in shadow right here, and then this part is coming forward. And you can make that part come forward even more by adding lighter color on top. That's too much, but I have my trusty filbert, so I'm going to blend it. You can see it's coming forward even more. And this is up to you if you're going to go back and forth like this a whole bunch. You might not want to. It might not be worth it to you to pick out every chunk of hair that you want to come forward and where you want it to recede. But your hair will look a lot more realistic if you do that with a couple of chunks of hair. Choose where they're going to come forward, choose where they're going to recede. I'm trying to get that on camera for you. You can see that. So now it looks like I've got just a few pieces of hair here. Got this piece, and this piece from the top. And then over here, I've got this piece and this piece, and kind of like this piece at the bottom looks like its own thing, even though it could be like curling away from you. There are more ways to define that curl if you'd like. If I want to say that this curl here is receding and this curl here is protruding, this one right here, I would have to darken this one just a little. So I just darken the inside of it, and it'll make the hair look like it's curling more. See it? I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So all the hair doesn't look like it's like the same way or flat, even though I drew a bunch of wavy lines. I'm going to draw the dark part in the middle as the curl goes, and then right here too. I keep saying draw even though I'm painting. I do that. And then I'll put some dark up here too. It'll look like it's curling more. I'm trying to show it to you, but it's really wet. Doesn't really look like much up close, huh? But when we pull back, you see it all becomes part of the hair on the portrait. And I'm going to put it all together. I was trying to hold her in my lap instead of on the table so I would have more control over everything. You see the laptop's getting in the shot. That's hilarious. So you can see that. The next part we have to do is the lightest lights and the darkest darks, just like on the face, and I can do that on the hair. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that after she dries. I'll see you in about 20 minutes. There's a lot of extender on that.